The best salespeople in the world are the ones who do it without you even noticing. Everyone's a salesperson, especially if you're an entrepreneur. In the I'm Not Salesy podcast, join me, Cassie McKenzie, and my fabulous guests as we dive into the top strategies, mindset, and energetics around sales and money so that you can hear more, yes, I'm in, instead of crickets or getting ghosted. So if you're ready to fully book out your programs with aligned AF clients and have people chasing you down in your inbox, asking how to work with you, then subscribe to this podcast today and become not salesy too. If you've ever sat there and looked at your DMs and been like, oh my God, this is literally full of crickets. Like there's nothing going on but the rent here. And you're like, oh my gosh, what does it take to actually have an inbox full of people wanting to work with me, having leads coming to me every day, having people saying, send me the link, and really have these results that you see other people having, and you just like think that there's something wrong with you because you're not getting it. If this is you, then listen up. I have the most amazing way to work together. And I feel like this is something that you don't have to experience, right? If you've posted up content every single day for months now and you're still not getting any inbound leads reaching out to you, and you actually want to fill your programs with ideal clients and have people saying, send me the link, and really build your business, but you feel like it should be working right now, then don't throw in the towel. Come to Mama Cass. I want to see you filling your programs with dream clients. I want you to feel like you're so completely confident when you're promoting your programs, and that you hear way more of a yes instead of getting ghosted, and you know exactly what to say during your sales conversations. And when you show up, whether it's in the DMs and you're talking to like the crazy amount of people that really want to work with you, or you're on a sales call, I want you to be able to get on the phone and get on sales calls with people who are already pre-sold, saying, how can we get started without you even having to pitch them? And even when you do have to pitch them and you get to that point in the sales call, it's so easy breezy that it's just like, it's easy as breathing, right? I want you to know that this is possible, because this month I'm starting with a group of experts, a group of coaches and consultants who really want to grow their business. And I'm going to teach you how to turn your coaching business into a sales machine, but one that's actually fun to run, right? Like the Maserati of sales machines, a Porsche, right? So we're going to go way past just giving you trainings and processes to create a steady flow of inbound quality leads. I'm actually going to be practicing scenarios with you so that you know how to close your sales, you know how to develop customer relationships, and you get real-time feedback on your actual DMs so that you start closing sales in the DMs and you start hearing more yes on your sales calls. And I'm even going to give you the tools to clear out the old fears and beliefs and the frustrating emotions that have prevented you from making sales so that you start stacking money in your bank account. There's nothing else like this online. I expect this first group to fill up really quickly, and I want you to send me a DM on Instagram or on LinkedIn with the word sales. Tell me that you heard this on the podcast, and I will get you the details, because I want to see you wildly successful. I want this ripple effect to really take off. It makes me happier to see your results than to see my own, because it means that this ripple effect is happening and that the work we do together is going far beyond just the call that we are on, that it's going on to impact your clients and impact the lives surrounded by them as well. This is the vibe. So this is what we're doing in the Sales Queen Takeover. You're going to learn how to attract leads that are aligned with you, that feel great working with. You're going to learn how to do this in a way where you're able to easily close them on the sales calls, easily close in the DMs, so that you can get to work helping the people who need you most, and that you can have an insane amount of impact on the world on a daily basis. So I look forward to seeing you there. I am so excited for this to get started, and I can't wait to hear what you create. Welcome back for another episode of the I'm Not Salesy podcast. And so I'm your host, Cassie McKenzie. Since this is a new podcast, I like to keep reintroducing myself. So, in case you're brand new back here, or if you come over from the Topless Manifester, which is where we were hanging out before, I have a guest, Chris's eyebrows go up like, what was that all about?
I'd not heard that before.
Yeah. So my previous podcast was called The Topless Manifester, and it was like a play on words about a theme around, like a limitless amount of things that you can manifest into your life. And so, but I started talking a lot about like business and sales things, since that's really, what I'm passionate about. And I thought, let's take this audience into just a podcast completely, created for the purpose of helping you, make sales and do all that jazz. You know what I mean? And as my text message dings, like, yeah, girl, yeah, bitch, you were right. Anyway, so, here we are, because I'm a sales coach for coaches and consultants, and I am so totally not salesy, but I love following the strategy and creating relationships and leveraging both of them with really the right energetics to make sales feel easy and fun. So I have a guest today, Chris Burns, and I'm so excited because we're going to teach you, or Chris is going to teach you, how to really differentiate yourself in a crowded market. And especially I'd love to, really dive in on how to do that without having to be like too much in people's face. You know what I mean? Because I know that that's not cool either, being that person when you're going to buy a sweater and they're like, so what color sweater would you like? Is this one good? Is cashmere great? Okay, I'll go check it out for you. So, okay, let me tell you a little about Chris. Chris is a marketing consultant, and he helps businesses differentiate themselves and stand out in a crowded field. And, Chris, I love that you're a bit of a serial entrepreneur. You're a father of three. You have your own podcast too. And so a lot like me, we've got these diverse skill sets, and it really sets you up to be able to relate to people on a different level, because you've got a busy life too. Like, you don't have all day to sit on social media and dick around with like every new strategy that comes out, like,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like we've got people who basically are in our head all day long, not allowing you to have like 5 minutes of peace so you can come up with a decent idea
Hmm.
sometimes. So, and you've got twin girls, so I shouldn't even be talking about my struggles right now.
I feel like we just became best friends.
I know, right? Did we? So tell me a little more about you and how you got started, and what you're up to up until now.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I do that, I just have to ask you to remind me. I have a quick funny story you'll appreciate about a salesperson while my wife was pregnant, and how it was a big turnoff. So remind me to come back to
Okay,
that
I'm
a little
ready to
bit
go. Okay,
later.
yeah.
So yeah, I am. Although I don't love the term serial entrepreneur, that's probably what I am. I own a handful of businesses, and really for me, I'm at the core a marketing professional, and that is what I'm most passionate about, even though I have some businesses in other categories. So where marketing started for me was really back in high school, and I kind of like telling this because as a 40-some-year-old person, grew up in small town Wisconsin. I needed an elective my senior year. And of course, I'm looking for slacker classes. And someone said, well, what about marketing? And I'm like,
Yeah.
what the hell is marketing? Right. I knew what sales was.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, if you do the marketing class, you get to work in the school store. So you get to make cookies and sell candy to kids at lunchtime and stuff. And then you get to join DECA. And I'm like, what's that? They're like, well, there's a sales competition. And I thought, well, I grew up around a family business. So I think at the time I thought I was really good at sales.
Mhm.
And then they said, and this is where it was like my ears were open. Did you know you get to take a class trip to New York City for 3 days? And I'm like, what? Yes, sign me up
Mm.
for this class. Whatever this marketing is, I'm interested. And that's where it all kind of unraveled from there. So I decided after that, I love marketing. I'm going to study marketing in college, worked in and out of a family business for a few years. And every job I've had since, and there's been plenty, have been in and around marketing in some capacity. And I was really intrigued back after I graduated college I graduated in '04. So '06, '07, '08, somewhere in there, Facebook introduced business pages. And that is when the term social media marketing became a thing. And it's unfortunate because as I say that, I'm really feeling old at the moment. Because people are like, oh, that was invented when you were alive. Yeah, I'm a dinosaur.
I remember
So,
going on the World Wide Web back when I was
mhm,
going to college. Oh my God.
yeah.
Yeah.
At that time, all you really had was Google AdWords, email marketing, and websites. And there
Mhm.
wasn't a lot above and beyond that. And that really changed the game. And I was able to help companies I worked for build off the back of these social media platforms. And we were doing things called blogger outreach campaigns, which are now like influencer marketing, as they call it. And so I started becoming an entrepreneur. And then really what changed for me was back probably about 7 years ago. I started working for a digital marketing agency that specialized in social media. And that
Mm.
was at a time where I was starting my first, I'll call air quotes, real business. And I thought I knew a lot about marketing, but I learned a ton. And I was able to practice everything that we were doing on my own business. And I was able to tell my clients that I was consulting with and talking with every day, hey, I would not do that. That does not work. Instead, I would do this. This is what's working for me. This is what's working for other nonprofits or bars and restaurants in this category. And all of a sudden, I gained a whole bunch of momentum, started doing some public speaking. And then after a while, I'm like, I think I kind of need to go out and do my own thing. So that's where I became an independent marketing consultant. And I won't go into all the details, but one really cool thing happened to me when I was consulting with a local university who had basically a student team, a student agency in house.
Oh,
They called me back 6 months later and like, hey, do you want to be what's equivalent to an adjunct professor and teach social media marketing? And I said, yes.
whoa,
That was
fun.
a bucket list thing for me. So I was able to check that off my career bucket list itinerary last year. And now I have a small marketing agency slash company. We do a lot of website design, social media, and things in that category. I also own a party bike business, a fleet and safety business, a leadership business, and we'll stop at that.
A party bike. Tell me more.
Yeah. So, are you familiar with pedal pubs, party bikes, where people
Oh,
hop
yeah,
on,
yeah,
pedal
yeah. We
around,
do
drink
have those
beer?
downtown. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Especially
Hmm.
well, I always felt bad for the people in San Diego that were doing that because it's kind of a little more hilly.
Mm. That is a challenge. It's leg day if you want to do that for sure.
Yeah, yeah. All that. And here they've got like the tiki huts that go around too. Well, I guess they're not like exercise tiki huts, but they're like little boats that are in the water
Hmm.
that go
I've
to like the channels and stuff.
I've seen them. Those are cool too.
Yeah. Well, that's so neat. Yeah. Like, how incredible is it to be able to coach, to teach kids at school? Like I have a when I was growing up, I never considered myself to be a salesperson because both of my parents are teachers.
Mhm.
And like some of the things you just mentioned jogged my memory from hearing about other people doing them like back in high school and stuff. But when I chose my college, I went to Virginia Tech, and I remember like similarly like choosing your major. I remember going to like the or not the orientation, but whatever it is when you're like testing out the colleges. I forget what it's called. But I remember walking into the business college and being like I had no idea what to major in. My mom, like I didn't want to be a doctor. I didn't want to deal with all that. I wanted something easy, but like I had no idea what to major in. I remember walking into the business school and they had a study abroad program in Switzerland. And I remember thinking, oh, well, maybe I'll just major in business. I'm pretty sure I could wing it, right? Like
Oh
I
yeah.
love advertising, I love watching commercials and stuff. Like that'd be so cool to figure out how to make advertisements. Like maybe I should be a marketing major. Like seriously, that's how I chose marketing. But it was like
I
such
love it.
great, like I'm really creative, pretty outgoing, although I kind of consider myself to still be to also be like an introverted extrovert. But at the same time, it's so crazy how I mean, I must have been following some shred of intuition that was like connecting with me, or maybe my spirit guides were just like hitting me into the right room. Like, just listen to this. What'll do it for you? How about a study abroad trip in Switzerland? Will that do it? Will that scream enough? Like, come do this.
Amazing.
So, but it ended up being such a great match. It's so fun. I find it to be like fascinating. So how does that then translate? You must have a lot of experience with helping people differentiate themselves, especially online. So I'm going to ask, where do you think people trip up the most, that they don't even realize it, that they're, doing it wrong?
Oh, wow. That's such an
Loaded
open-ended
question.
question. I get taken so many ways. I'll just take it back, and I'll use myself as a guinea pig for this answer. I had attempted to start several businesses in my 20s and 30s, and I don't count them because, if it didn't last more than a year and didn't generate more than 10 grand in revenue, it's really ultimately a hobby. So,
Right.
one was I thought I would get into the funny t-shirt business, and I had a website, and I was generating several $1,000s a year. And it kind of got to the point to where it was either now or never, like, as they say, shit or get off the pot, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, a lot of people are in this category. How am I going to differentiate? How am I going to grow? And I was really just learning about digital marketing. I knew a little bit. I was shocked that I was getting sales by doing some social media, but ultimately I couldn't grow, and I wouldn't have been able to grow unless I chose the path of differentiation. So
Mm.
at the time, like back in the early 2000s, funny t-shirts were a thing that was really popular. Everybody was kind of
Yeah.
getting into it. And I just realized that if I want to stand out and build, and that was kind of my goal, was a six-figure business, I have to be different. I have to differentiate. And at the time, I didn't see a path where I could be different or be
Mhm.
better. And so
Yeah.
I'll say this, and this is where I think a lot of people go wrong, is a lot of people try to emulate what other people are doing. So if you see an influencer or see a thought leader on LinkedIn or a platform, you're like, I want to do what she does. That's awesome. Well, that might be true. That might be awesome, but you'll be the same. And if you're the same as other people, you're just a
Mhm.
commodity.
Right.
So some people will say, okay, Chris, well, I want to be better. Well, better to me is average. The same is below
Ooh,
average.
way
But if
harsh.
you want to be the best, you need to be different.
Yeah.
So it's good, better, best. To me, it's below average, average, best. Because there is a big pool of average, whether you're going to Walmart and looking at Bluetooth speakers, or you're considering buying a new vehicle or car seats. What is the good, better, best? And typically the best have features that differentiate or separate themselves. So, excuse me,
Yeah.
as I work with my clients, I say, where is there the least amount of noise? Because like you, I'm a bit of a coach, and I talk to people, and often they don't have this really clear vision. And a good example, I talked with someone recently as a client, and he's like, well, I want more subscribers, I want more downloads, and I want more sales. And it's like, okay, what the hell does that mean? I,
Right.
I, can we quantify it? How do we measure it? What metrics are you looking at? It's just so loose. It's like, no wonder you're not achieving your goals. And so I say, okay, so if you want to start a podcast, you want to be a coach, where is there the least amount of noise right now? And unfortunately, people start businesses where there's the most amount of noise. So let me give you an example. Again,
Yeah.
I'll use myself. I was speaking at an event last week, and people said, well, Chris, why digital marketing consultant? I said, well, truthfully, you go on Google right now or any platform, and you will literally find probably a million people who do what claim to do exactly what I do. And they're like,
Yeah.
wow, okay, that sounds like, why would you do that then? And I say, okay, well, I hope that I've been able to differentiate myself, not just by like my resume or my experience or my book, whatever it is. I have a USP, a unique selling proposition, or as some people would call it, an elevator pitch. So, for example, and this I really truly try to do this, is if someone just met me in an elevator and like, hey, Chris, that was really cool. What do you do? And I say, well, I'm a digital marketing consultant, but that's boring. So I say, I I'm a marketing consultant, but what I do is what's interesting. I make social media so easy, it's fun again. And you're going to be excited. By the time we're done, you're going to be excited to manage your social media. So easy, it's exciting. I think I messed that up. My apologies. And oh, by the way, it's going to be really fun when you start generating results. And they say, well, Chris, how do you do that? Well, the first thing I do is I help simplify, because I think entrepreneurs and business people overcomplicate things. So I start by simplifying their strategy and I help them implement, because as you know, strategy means nothing unless you execute on it. And that's
Exactly.
where people are like, oh, well, tell me more. So I thought, what can I say to people in 60 seconds or less, or 30 seconds and less? And I've got a few different loose variations I use that leaves them wanting to ask me a question or wanting more. And so again, I'm in a space where there's a lot of noise.
Yeah.
Hopefully you might say, Chris, I'm interested, but I want to help people copywriting for LinkedIn. That would be amazing, because now you're niching down to something very specific.
Hmm.
And well, there is a lot of noise in that, but I just chose it because it's a little bit more specific. There is a lot fewer people competing as opposed to being a social media coach or social media consultant.
Yeah.
But even if you do want to go in that crowded category, what is the messaging? What is the value proposition or unique selling proposition that you're putting out there, where when people see it, they're like, yeah, I need to work with her. I need to work with him.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying my marketing's the best or my messaging's the best, but as I've changed that, it is unbelievable how, and this is where it gets really interesting, and you'll want to take notes here. If you're
Definitely.
sick of cold messaging people and not getting responses on LinkedIn and Facebook or wherever else you're doing it, if you follow this recipe, the tables will turn. You're going to get people coming to you to
Hmm.
say, I want to work with you. I
Yeah.
saw that you on that podcast. I saw your website. I was really impressed.
Hmm.
What do you charge for coaching? And
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I've had that happen more this calendar year than I've ever had. And it's an absolute game changer. So that's why I like to use myself. I've learned from a lot of my struggles and my failures and my shortcomings, and I'm kind of measuring myself against other people to see how good is my messaging, how good is the services, and how am I packaging that? Because if it's bland, like, oh, 1 hour coaching session for $99, I don't know what
Yeah.
the hell that means. That means nothing to
No.
me. So you really need to position yourself as different, not better, not the same, but different, and help me understand what it is I'm getting from the services you offer. Or even if it's you want me to subscribe to your newsletter, why? Because there are literally tens of millions of people who want my email address that want me to subscribe. And frankly,
Mhm.
I've got way too many. So even that's becoming sacred these days. So really tell
Yeah.
the people what the value is that you're providing them.
Totally. Yeah. I couldn't agree more, because like there's so many people who coach on sales, but and I love joining other people's sales programs and things, and it's like the kind of thing that I could never get enough of. I don't know why other people, maybe because it's my wheelhouse, right? But I've recently interviewed another coach who does breath work for sales, and create like her whole value proposition is around calm your nervous system first and then rewire the beliefs around what you can do with sales, and then then when they work with people like you to add the strategy, the strategy actually works, right? Because you said
Mhm.
something really interesting there around not worrying about like presenting yourself as the best out there, just present yourself as different. And I think where you need to present yourself the best is just in your own mind, right?
Yes.
Because like as soon as you start to believe that you are the best option out there for anybody, like you're the best option for somebody to learn about how to do marketing, or you're the best person for someone to learn how to do sales out there of all the other choices, then that's when it starts to become easy, right? Because it's not your job to convince people that you're the best. You just have to convince people that you're different than the other guy. And sometimes like convincing yourself that you're the best is the hardest job of all.
Yeah. So it's so funny you mentioned that. So I wrote a book It's a little bit of a take on golf. It's called King of the Mental Swing: How to Win at Golf and Life by Thinking Differently. And my point is not to necessarily promote the book, but I truly
Go for
believe
it.
that you are 100% in control of your thoughts, your actions, your
Mhm.
attitude, and about 98% of what happens in life.
Yeah.
And if you approach it with positive energy, positive thoughts, positive self talk, if you
Mhm.
visualize the outcome, good things will happen. But I'll go back to this. I've never been short of confidence, which is a blessing and a curse in some cases, as you can imagine. And I remember when I was leaving the agency world to be independent consultant, and I did it for a lot of reasons. One, because I felt like I could do the most good and help more people and make more money, which is obviously a part of it. And I reached out to a few friends who worked in business who have hired consultants at a high level. And I said, hey, I got to ask you, what are you paying your consultants? And we had a really honest conversation. They said, well, we pay some consultants up to $300 an hour or more. And I was like, holy show, wow.
Yeah.
So I had some more conversations, and I was starting to learn that the really good consultants are charging well over $100. And then one of my good friends asked me, he's like, well, what do you want to charge? What are you thinking you should charge? And I was like, I don't know, like $50 or $60 an hour. And he said, okay, so how's that going to work? And I really didn't know. So I was like, yeah, I'll probably have X number of clients and I'll charge this and this many hours. And he's like, are you leaving your job to make $50,000 a year? I
Yeah.
said, no. He's like, well, clearly you haven't done the math, because really good consultants who believe in themselves, by the way, charge what they're worth. And he said,
Mhm.
well, what are you worth? What do you like? What would be ideal? And I said, at least $100 an hour. It's like, so charge it. So,
Yeah.
so do it. And I'll tell you what, I say I didn't believe in myself, or did believe in myself, but there was a fraction of me that didn't, because if I truly believed I was worth 120 or 150, which by the way, I charge more now, I would say I would have charged it. But I
Mhm.
didn't. I didn't. I was scared. I was nervous, and I had imposter syndrome at times, which is
Mhm.
all these
Yeah.
natural things that are healthy. But I also didn't want to, as you say, dick around. I didn't want to screw
Yeah.
people over. I didn't want to be unfair. And I thought, well, just maybe I need to build my book of business. I need to get some customers and I can charge more. I said,
Yeah.
no, charge what you're worth. And
Yeah.
that to me was really important, because I think if you believe in yourself and you have the framework set, you'll be able to offer a great service or a great
Mhm.
product to your clients. And so I really think that self-belief and self-talk,
Yeah.
and these affirmations that you see throughout the day are so important to recognize.
Totally. Yeah. And it's like I'm trained in NLP and timeline therapy and EFT and like hypnosis actually. And there's so many programs that are deep in there that are working without you knowing it. And I've had several guests on lately who are timeline therapy trained or whatever. So like they get deep into those beliefs and patterns that you might see play out in your business. You know what so like for example, if you're great at starting businesses overnight and you can make like basically make it take off in the first month, except for one type of business that you really want, like maybe it's your consulting or your coaching business and it's just like trickling in some money here and there, and it's like time and time again, like anything else you start is fine, but that like you want to see what's the belief there about you being on your own as a coach or consultant and not like suckling from the teat of the of the corporate life or whatever. You want to get to the bottom of that, right? And so there's so like it's so important to do mindset work. I was actually talking to my husband the other day. I was like, I think in sales you can be super skilled at the strategy, but you really do need a mindset coach when you are like at every level, I feel like, because that's going to be the thing that's going to keep you from that greatness every single day of the week. So and it doesn't matter what you can't out strategy the limitation you put on your own self.
I
I
will say though, I think with mindset, and this goes back to what I do in marketing, is it's so important to have a plan.
yeah.
Whether it's a plan or a strategy, a plan is something more simple, which I think is what people need. But as an entrepreneur, so often we sit down. I don't have my notebook handy, but I have a notebook just to my left because I'm left-handed, and it is the
Oh,
laundry list of things that I want to do and need to
yeah,
do, both personally and professionally. And I got things highlighted, and I try really hard to get stuff done. But sometimes when we sit down, we're very overwhelmed because as
yeah,
entrepreneurs, we're like, "Oh, squirrel! Oh,
tiny.
shiny object!"
Yeah,
And we get distracted by things. We're also very tend to be very creative people. So when you get overwhelmed, nothing gets done. And if you
yeah,
don't have a plan, you're stressed out, you pick low hanging fruit and you get nowhere. And this feeling of burnout sets in. And you mentioned before, it's like, I have this business that's not going anywhere. It's the same thing every year. Well, that's where it's time to make a change. And I think that if you have a roadmap, it's going to be a
yeah.
1-page plan, and it's
Hmm.
simplified. It's gotta be simple. And if it's not, that's going to lead to failure. And
Yeah.
then you can
Oh,
create
true.
an implementation plan,
Yeah.
and if you can implement these things in the strategy, you will then start to be successful. Though that's the biggest problem is I've seen people that have a strategy like, oh yeah, I got one. It's
Hmm.
30 pages. Okay, how often do you look at it? Never. That's because just the thought of it
Yeah.
stresses you out. You're like, holy crap, I can't, there's no way I'll get through this. So have a plan to start. It can become more robust over time and work on implementing it. And when you're productive, your mindset changes. So
Totally.
like I said, you're in control, but if you have a roadmap, but as a byproduct, your mind space and your
Mhm.
attitude will completely change.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I 100% agree because like there was a point where when I was first learning LinkedIn, for example, because I was on the other social media platforms and then came over to LinkedIn, and there was like a little bit of like, what the hell do I do over here? Where do I even start? So I actually hired a coach and I was working with her, and I made a list of like the daily flow just to get used to, because you've got to practice it, and the more you practice it, the more, the better you get and the more of an easy thing it becomes. But it was like there were so many steps on it that I just like I taped it to my window that was in front of me, and I was like, I'd look at it and then I'd like like, oh my god, I need more tea, oh my, I need more water. It was just so overwhelming, and I was like, holy shit, something has to change. I need to simplify this because I'm avoiding the real work that's actually like the needle moving things that are going to bring business in. And the longer I do that, the more wasted time there's going to be here. But like what I see happen a lot too is, say you're out there and you're a coach or a consultant and you want to learn about sales, there's a lot of great content out there. Like I post a lot of great content, there's podcasts like this. There's a lot of thought leaders on LinkedIn that post a lot of really, really great content that if you actually implemented, it would grow your business, if you were
Yeah.
consistent about it. But the piece that you're missing is the implementation. That's why I love having, group programs that I bring people into. It gives them an opportunity to like learn the simple things to do, but then implement it right away to start getting comfortable taking those actions. Because if you leave us as entrepreneurs to do it on our own, those things that seem daunting and that bring up those feelings of fear of like, oh my God, how am I supposed to go talk to someone in the DMs? How am I supposed to go on a sales call? How am I supposed to open the sale? I don't even know what to say to open it and not get friend zoned, like when you try it once, you're just like, oh my gosh, you just collapse as a puddle on the floor, or just go around in circles talking about niceties. Like, oh, well, that's great. Like, ooh, and never actually get to the point that's going to get you a sale, right? So that's why I love like being that facilitator. It sounds like you are too. That actually gets people to go from here's the tools that you need to I'm going to force you to implement it right freaking now so that you get like by the time we're off this 1 hour call, you feel like a pro at it, because you've got to practice, and it's daunting if you don't have this background.
You do. You have to practice. You have to. And sometimes you're right. You have to literally say, if you don't do this, you're not going to get to where you want to be. And one person told me once, this wasn't that long ago. They said, "Look, Chris, I look at what you're doing and what you've done, and you have the potential to get to where you want to go, but you're leaving so much on the table."
Mhm.
And that hit home with
Ooh.
me about a year and a half ago. It's like, oh shit, you're right. I am, and I knew it, and I was searching for answers, but I didn't have them, and that's where I said I need to create a roadmap. And because I didn't have that clear vision, um, I was just doing the same old stuff, getting the same old
Yeah.
results.
Yeah. Yeah. So what things did you have to shift? Like what were the things that, if you don't mind sharing, like just like a couple of the main things that were causing you to leave money on the table that when you shifted it helped?
There's a couple things. One, I wasn't serious or diligent about building my personal brand.
Oh,
I
that's a
thought
big one.
that I really thought like, oh, I don't need to post every day because I never wanted to. I'm on social media every day for my clients, but I'm not posting a lot. I'm not very active on a personal standpoint, and
Mhm.
so I've always knew it. I always knew it was important. I focused on it a little bit in the agency world, and I had a decent following. And then I basically zoomed out and I said, what are other, and I don't want to be an influencer, I want to be a thought leader.
Yeah.
What are other people in that look like me or that I want to be like? What are they doing? So then I
Mhm.
realized, okay, I know LinkedIn's the place to be. I need to start a LinkedIn newsletter. I need to start posting. So what I did was I challenged myself to post once a day for a year on LinkedIn, and so far I'm on track. I'm about a third of the way through. And I also said that I need to update, like seriously optimize my profile.
Totally.
There
100%.
were probably 20 things I wasn't doing. I thought, I'm like, oh yeah, my profile looks great.
Mhm.
Well, it wasn't. So I had put myself in creator mode. I started publishing video. I started working on. I created a podcast with my business partner, and then I started taking the podcast and creating micro pieces of content. Also, things I can post periodically throughout the week. And I was more serious about posting on multiple platforms as well, and not just being, I'm putting all my eggs in one basket. So I would definitely say personal brand is so important, and that's something I have presentations built on that I can talk about for a lot longer. The other thing was not only just having goals, because again, goals are useless unless you have a plan. Just like
Right.
a plan is useless unless you have it implemented. So I just said, all right, I do a brand audit, a personal like internal audit at the end of every year, and that's where I said the year before, I'm like, I really need to make a change. If I want to get to X, and I've personally have some big goals, I need to find a way to be more serious with my time,
Mhm.
which I'm not serious. I need to build my personal brand. I need to create a roadmap, a goal, not just a goal, but a serious plan. I need to implement it. So basically, what I did was I started the personal brand. I have a personal website. I'm publishing content every day on multiple platforms. I have a newsletter. I have digital products now available people can buy. I'm actually promoting my book, which I was afraid to do before. I'm like, I don't know if I want to let everybody know I've got a
Go
book.
for it.
Now I'm working on a second book, and I sold a business last year, a small party bus business, and I'm focusing on the big things. Like what I'm most passionate about is my marketing and my leadership business, and
Mhm.
so ultimately those are the things that are going to help me get to where I want to be, and everything else is pretty much noise, and it's holding me back and it's taking time away, even if it's 2 hours a week, 30 minutes a week. What if I had an extra 30 minutes that I could focus on adding an extra client
Mhm.
that's X thousands of dollars a month, right? And so
Right.
sometimes you have to take a step back, and selling a business or just shutting something down like a hobby that you wanted to turn into a business that's just not going to happen. It's okay as
Yeah.
long as it's helping you inch toward those bigger goals. And so you have to be honest with yourself, and that's what I was. And it was the brand, it was the strategy, it was the goals, it's the implementation. And the final thing that I think my wife would appreciate, and a lot of spouses out there, is really setting your calendar, like getting really serious about it.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Because if it's not on my calendar, I can guarantee you I won't remember. And it's not that I'm the most forgetful person, it's that I have a lot going on, and family comes first and all this and that. The final thing that you probably weren't expecting that I think is really important is self care. So you're
Yeah.
probably not expecting this from a 40-year-old guy, but I noticed a couple years ago when I really got serious about myself. So it
Mhm.
was taking care of my body, which is sleep. I need 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Game changer. I started eating healthy. And I'm not just talking about like, oh, well, I'm eating more salads in a week. Yeah, I mean,
I
I
had a
am, but
cucumber.
I am eating, I'm really like trying to eat a lot more clean, probably 50% better than what I was 5 years ago.
So,
And I'm also taking time to do things like exercise. So every morning I've got, even if it's 20 minutes, it still helps. And I will tell you that a combination of all those things, if you want to get a massage, go to the spa, whatever it is that helps you just decompress, do
true.
that. For me, it's golf. Could be anything for you. And I will tell you what, my mind functions better. I am less forgetful. I am more in tune, more aware, and I'm better for it. And so I'm able to bring my best self to my clients, my family, and everything else that I do in life. So there's a lot of things you can do, but it's going to be a little different for everybody.
Yeah, totally. I love that you added the self-care and the time blocking. Like that's so big because you have to pencil everything in for sure. Otherwise, you get no balance. And what's the point in having a business that gives you freedom if you don't have any kind of freedom built in, right? And you've got to start your
Yeah.
business today for how you want to run it 5 years from now, or else it's going to run you.
Well, work-life balance is something we say a lot, but we don't actually do it. And
Yeah.
people are like, oh yeah, work-life balance, that's great. No, entrepreneurs like me probably work way too much and don't take enough. And I'll tell you this quick story. Being someone who likes to play golf, I don't love it, but I like it because it allows me to spend time with friends and be outside in the sun, which our summers in Wisconsin
I was
are
gonna
sacred.
say, like, you
They're
don't get to
short.
play it much up there in Wisconsin.
Yeah. So a couple of my friends will always say like, Chris, well, is this the year you're going to play more golf? And I'm usually it's sadly no, I'm too busy with my clients and I'm too busy with
Yeah.
my kids stuff and this and that. I'm not saying you should sacrifice family stuff, but what I am saying is that you'll never find time as an entrepreneur because there's always a salesperson who wants to talk to you. There's always either an employee or maybe it's a client of yours. There someone will find a way to get into your DMs or get on your phone or start texting you, or your email inbox will be full. And so you have to be very intentional about making time. You have to make it, which means you have to sacrifice something. And for me, I found over the last couple of years, I don't really watch a lot of TV or Netflix. There are a
Yeah.
couple things I like to watch, and it's very limited. And I just instead, like, I'm okay with working at night around my family because I want my kids to know that it's okay to work hard. It's okay to have a really good work ethic. Like I grew up seeing my dad work a lot and I'm better for it because I know that I don't want to be lazy. I want to have nice things. So I want my kids to see what it's like to have a really strong work ethic. And I think my wife feels the same way.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying every night you should do that, but you have to make time. So sometimes you have to sacrifice things. And sometimes you got to make up for it by having some longer vacations, longer weekends, doing fun stuff with your kids. But whatever that balance is for you, find it and make time because all of this really works together like a big recipe. And your recipe for success is probably going to be a little bit different than mine. And that's
Mhm.
okay. It's what works for you and what works for your body.
Right. Amen. Ah, I don't think I could have ended on a better note there. So I'm so excited to hear you say all that. So what an amazing conversation. This totally flew by, Chris. Thank you so
It
much for being
did.
a guest here and tell everybody where they can find you online and follow you so that they can see your posts every single day for the next mm, 200 days, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm probably most active on LinkedIn. That's you can find me. My handle there is Chris B Burns, two B's in the middle. So I post a lot of content about digital marketing, a little entrepreneurial business stuff too. I've got a newsletter, and I did just launch some products on my personal website, which is iamchrisburns.com. So there's a LinkedIn what I call profile playbook or cheat sheet you can download to fully optimize your profile to stand out and rise above the noise. I've
Yeah.
got some other programs and coaching stuff available if you're interested. Otherwise, I do have a podcast, which you mentioned. It's called Hustle Nation Podcast. It's tied to my leadership business, which is hustleleaders.com. And that's really geared around people who are coaches, leaders, C suite level, upper management. And we don't tell people they need to work 60 hours a week, sleep less, and eat crappy. It's really about being your best self, and it's productivity hacks, efficiency hacks, and just learning from other real leaders and people who are the best in their category.
Right.
And I've got plenty of other stuff going on. I do have a marketing agency called Lux Level Media, or luxlevelmedia.com if you're interested. And the one thing that you and your listeners might find interesting is if you're interested in some free time, you can go to my Calendly link, and I'm giving away a free 15-minute brand audit. So if you just want to hop on and pick my brain for 15 minutes and ask me questions, or want to take a look at your social media, happy to do all of that.
Awesome. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Chris. That is so valuable, especially with the brand. Everything starts with your brand. Like your content starts with your brand, your sales starts with your brand. Like your brand can sell for you when you're sleeping, and it's the thing that makes you long lasting and memorable, right? So thank you so much for taking your time to be a guest today. And I'm so excited. Y'all go follow Chris and, opt into all his goodness there. And I will see you all on the next episode. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you loved this episode of I'm Not Salesy, then go ahead and hit subscribe so that you're notified of the next episode. And also leave a 5-star rating and a review. And if you send it to the link in the show notes, we will send you a present in return. We also love to feature reviews on the podcast as well. So we'd love to feature yours. So go ahead and send a screenshot to the inbox and come find me on social media. I love hearing what you're up to and how you're becoming not salesy too. I'll see you in the next episode.